This was the German premiere of Johatsu Into Thin Air by Andreas Hartmann and Arata Mori, who will, as I said before, join us online on Zoom on the screen shortly. And until we wait for them, everyone who wants to leave can leave now. Obviously, everyone who wants to stay and join us for the Q&A, please stay. As I said before, this is as much as a Q&A for you as it is for us. So if you have any questions, anything, there will be one of my colleagues with a microphone going around. I will kick us off with one or two questions, and then I will give it over to you. And anything you want to say or have comments, please feel free to share. But before we start, again, another round of applause for the two directors. Thank you, Andreas and Arata, for joining us. You were with us here for the first two screenings, and thank you for coming back online. Where are you joining us from right now? Can you tell us?
Yeah, we are in Berlin right now, from the comfort of our homes. Yeah.
Great. Maybe to kick us off, could you tell us how the two of you decided to co-direct this film and how you got to know each other, and when you decided then to make especially this film together as co-directors?
Yeah, so I met Arata in 2017 when I was screening my previous film, A Free Man, which is also a film about Japan or in Japan. I was showing it in Berlin, and we met at the film screening there. And previously, in 2014, I had a scholarship, an artist in residence program by the Goethe Institute in Kyoto, the Villa Kamogawa. And I was living in Japan for 3 months and was doing this film, A Free Man, about a young man who decided to live as a homeless by choice. So he ran away from home and dropped out of university and decided to live as a free man on the streets of Kyoto. So it was also kind of a disappearing story. And through this work on this film, I discovered the greater phenomenon of disappearance, and then met Arata, and then we talked about this project, about this idea, and decided to do this film together.
The term Johatsu, which is also the name given to your film, has been a term used since the 1960s, and the phenomenon is not only in Japan something, but in other countries around the world. Why do you think is it so prevalent in Japan and is the most used in Japan as something that happens?
So I think the Johatsu is kind of like a special term, which is describing firstly has two meanings. And one is evaporation of water. The second is the disappearance of people. And then we have this term particularly because obviously we have this phenomenon which is quite common. It's just like nobody talks about it. It's also like disappearance is regarded taboo in Japan, but it is somehow present in Japanese society. I guess just because, compared to other countries, the Japanese culture, we don't speak up our emotions, and then suddenly our emotion kind of explodes because we are kind of suppressing all of the emotional insight. So we don't talk about the problems among the friends and families, and then all of a sudden you just cannot deal with it anymore. So suddenly kind of just to leave from your life.
Throughout the film, you look at Johatsu, the phenomenon, from different perspectives. So you look at it from the people who actually evaporate, then from the night moving companies, but you also talk with families who are looking for their people who are suffering because they're losing their loved ones. How hard was it for you to find protagonists to talk to? Especially because also at the end credit it's mentioned that some of the names have been changed and some of the people had to be made anonymous because it's not really safe for them to speak up in public.
Yeah, of course, that was quite difficult. As you can imagine, this was not an easy project to work on. So it took us, of course, several years. So our first research trip to Japan was in 2018, and then we came back and again multiple times to meet those people and to try to find those people. And especially, I think it helped for us that we were kind of an international team. Like I'm from Germany, and Arata also left Japan like 15 years ago. So many of the protagonists told us that they only participated in the project because we were kind of outsiders and they kind of felt free to speak to us and to speak out. And they said they would have not talked to the Japanese media, for example. So in a way, for many of them, it was also the first time that they could share their story in that way. And so that helped to get access to the people.
Are all the protagonists you work with in the film, or did you select some of them to be then part of the final film? And if you made a selection, how did you choose who is going to be in it?
So we had other, so to say, the people that we were planning to include it, and we even edited some of the other character stories. So, but the way that we chose was, and of course, it's not only if because we almost have like a double number of the protagonists, but we chose them because it was more like kind of how it works also like with other, like with other stories because the film has like, the consistent of like very like a big story, which is made out of like a sort of like a smaller stories from different perspectives. So we sometimes had to give away some very interesting stories in order to kind of make sense of the bigger story. So it was like very difficult process in the editing, but also, like with the help of our German editor Kai Eiermann, who was also like from fiction, like a fiction film background. He also edited like many fiction films. So like he also like helped us to kind of narrow down the story that we have and then narrow down the protagonists.
I have many more questions, but I want to give it to our audience. Are there any questions so far? One there, right in the back. Somebody's going to come to you with a microphone because otherwise they won't hear you in the Zoom. I think there's a couple of people in the back there.
Thanks a lot for the film. It was very intriguing. I was wondering, the protagonists who have been shown visually, weren't they afraid that their identity gets unveiled one day? Maybe the film is going to be shown in Japan.
Yeah, that of course we made with the protagonists agreement that we will not distribute the film officially in Japan. So it will not be on Japanese television and not in the cinema, not on official streamers. And only under this condition they agreed to participate in the project. So we are promised them to do our best that it's not getting leaked to Japan. Of course, they are also aware of the risk that through VPN or other illegal methods, some people might be able to access it, but they agreed under this condition. Yeah. So that's why also, for example, in the trailer, which is published on the internet, some people are blurred. For example, Miss Saita, the night mover in the trailer, you cannot identify her, but in the film, she agreed to show her face. So we have this, two methods to work with it. And also some locations, for example, of course, you've seen that we hide them through mosaics, through blur techniques. But sometimes we also use the techniques that the establishing shots of the places from outside are sometimes different places from different areas, different neighborhoods. So there we also try to anonymize the locations a little bit.
And the film is also not available online here. So you can only see it in cinemas if you come physically.
Hi, so first of all, thank you for this amazing movie. I wanted to ask, because you can see a lot of male characters in the movie, if it's more common for men to use these night moving companies, or is it like for both genders the same numbers?
Well, of course, it's just like I think the ratio of the men and women, it's not that we, calculate it, but would be not big difference. It's just that they disappear or they use the night movers for different reasons. Because for men, the most reasons is, like if you have like a financial problem, like Sugimoto, or if you are running away from so to say like yakuza or mafias, and then or if you have a sort of like human relationship problem. But for woman, the most of case was like running away from like domestic violence by her partners. So that was the most of the reason. That's what the Night Movers told us.
Do you maybe know why the man who goes back to his family decides to do so? I think his name was Kanda.
Well, so we did like a several week filming with him, and then so that and then it was like a long process of filming with him, and then like through the like long spans, and then we knew that when we met him for the first time, we knew that he wanted to. I mean, he has been disappeared for 37 years, but he was telling us that he wanted to, go back to hometown maybe someday. And then like when we met him like again after the COVID time, because Andreas couldn't enter Japan like for 2 years particularly. So we had kind of like 2 years of the gap between. And then we met him again. And then and at the time he actually told us he went back to, to his hometown after 37 years. Because he actually wanted to be back there and then to see his parents. And then so we actually asked them that maybe would you like to go to your hometown again? And so actually the last scenes that you're watching, it was like as that it was like a second time that he went back to hometown, but we kind of edited in a way so that maybe that is a little bit like ambiguous if it was like went back home for the first timers. But we already knew that he really wanted to get in touch with his family. So it was like coming from him.
First of all, thank you for bringing that interesting story to us. And I want to ask if you had a chance to work as a night mover or like as a detective, would you like to do this? And I'm asking both of you. Thanks.
I think I didn't get the second part of the question. Like your question was if we would like to work as a night mover or detective. Me personally not.
And also I want to ask why.
Why? Well, I think it's a very special job, which is very intense, of course. Like Saita is facing many challenges and, of course, many individual stories day by day, which are very, very shocking and traumatizing. So the interesting part of Saita was like on the last day of her interview, she told us, we saw the scene when she's walking after the beach on this field. And then she said, we asked her, why is she doing this job? And she said she was always an outsider, even when she was a child. And always when she was trying to do something normal, it never worked out. And so she kind of felt, that she kind of belongs in this field, in this part of Japan's society. I don't know if this answers your question. It's just a side story which came to my mind. Arata, maybe. How about you?
Well, I would love to work as a detective, because I think the detective and the filmmaker has probably maybe some similarity in a way that we both would like to investigate, observe the reality, and then we would like to see the reality, the society from the reverse, from the back side of the world. So I think yeah. But I think it's also like maybe Japan could be the country where there's many detectives. I'm not sure if in Germany if there's many professional detectives. It's not that at least not as I have heard. So I would be curious like why there's so many detectives in Japan as well. But this is what we also discovered this time.
Are there more questions? One here. I don't know if somebody can go up there, but there's one. Well, you can try. I can repeat it, so we can do it like this. Yeah. So the question was that if the first character or your first protagonist that goes into the car, the man, if you have followed his story and kept up with him and know what happened to him.
So we followed it just not too much. We couldn't follow it too much. We just followed it like one more day apart from this escape because Saita only gave us like this short access to it. So we met him after he escaped. We met him again and made an interview with him and talked a bit more in depth about his story. But then we had to leave him alone because he was in this kind of temporary, like Saita brought him to a temporary place. And at the moment we don't know how his situation is.
Yeah, I was wondering, we see that it's a commercial industry where there are private companies offering these services. And it struck me that I would believe that there should be, or perhaps there is state assistance also for these often very vulnerable people. And how, I mean, maybe you could share a bit about that because we saw, I think, when the people were gathering and there were some festivities, that there are some helpers there, but how far is this extent of commercial help versus maybe government aid?
Well, in terms of government aid, of course, they are trying to expand the therapy and then to support for the people with sort of like in disparate situations, but it's not enough. And then also therapy is also still very it's not common in Japan. And then even like when you go to therapy, that people would look at you in a strange ways. So in terms of government aid, it's very limited, and then it's not enough, and that's why probably this business was created, because a lot of people like need helps, but also like the police, doesn't do anything. As they also like couldn't do anything to find the son of the mother, but the police its power is very limited. So that's why this of course in Japan, like we tend to make kind of commercial activity in any kind of like niche fields. I think that's why like Night Mover has evolved, and especially in the 80s, to my opinion.
You just mentioned that people need help, and throughout the film, most of the protagonists, and we also hear Saita on the phone discussing with people if they decide between Johatsu or suicide and what they're going to choose. Do you feel that Johatsu offers people like a different escape, and otherwise they would only choose suicide to get out of their shameful situation, quote unquote?
Yeah, so this relationship of Johatsu and the suicide is a big theme. But I think that because in Japan also has probably the second highest suicide rate in the world, as far as I know, and then so it's true that lots of Japanese people commit suicide because they don't have any other choice. But I mean, their like eyesight is very limited, and when you get like a certain like a problem, but some people like manage to escape from it and then actually to restart a new life. So actually, the Johatsu would be like the opposite, like the action of the committing suicide, because Johatsu has some positivity that okay, I mean, you don't have to die, you just go to different place, and then you really just kind of like leave your life behind, and then really to start your new life. So it's another life. So I think and then also in Japan, the Johatsu is also sometimes regarded as positive actions. So it's like we kind of also take it naturally somehow. Yeah, because it's yeah, because and for me, like I think the Johatsu is better than killing yourself, because it's if you kill yourself, like it's just your life is done. But Johatsu could be like a very happy second life. So
I think we have some time for more questions. So there on the row and then down there.
I have two questions actually. The first one, the people who use the service are very vulnerable. I could imagine that there might be also some night mover companies that could use those vulnerabilities. How can these people judge to choose the right service, to choose the right company? And the second question is that I could imagine that also criminals might use those services. Is that also present? Does that also happen?
Maybe I start. Of course, it's very difficult to judge a company, like especially because these companies are operating as moving companies, like as basically regular moving companies. They are registered, but they offer this special service to help people also under these severe situations, that they help them to escape at night and start a new life in a new place. So just by the website, I guess it's very difficult to judge what they do. And we also heard that some of these companies are also kind of connected with the mafia, with Yakuza. So I guess it's quite difficult. But Saida's company is like one of the biggest and most well-known and recognized companies in Japan for this service. So
Yeah, well, the I mean, of course, what the night movers told us is that they would like to see the clients, beforehand, even though that they are about to disappear. So sometimes they cannot meet them, but they are trying to meet them beforehand as much as possible to see if that person is really involved in crime or not, or if the person is running away from official debt, then it is crime to run away from that. So so that's what they told us. That they told us that they're like always quite careful of choosing clients.
So my question would be, what is the business model of a night moving company like Satya's? Because, like, for example, if you think that a couple that worked in Love Hotel, I don't think that they had particularly much money beforehand. And like, where's the money exchange? How do they pay for this service?
So it's not really big business model that you can make much money, and some of the night movers, or maybe the most of the night movers, do it and almost voluntary, and so the most of them have actually side job. They're like either running away a normal movie company, or maybe sometimes like a lawyer. Lawyers are doing this kind of business and as the second business. Because if you're running away from death, and then you cannot pay, and also they cannot charge. So this is sometimes not a business. But then Miss the Saito told us she's doing this because she also has the experience of disappearance by herself, and so she told us that she wants to help people who have the same experience.
And as you have seen in the film, it also happens quite often that her ex-clients and start to work for her. So this is also one way in how these clients can kind of pay back. Like if they cannot pay in the moment when they run away, then they start to work for her a little bit. Of course, it's also a little bit gray zone because there also starts like in a way like a dependency. So they kind of start to be in the next dependent situation. So that was also like, for example, the couple of the Love Hotel who was living in the Love Hotel. Saida told us now a few months ago that they have escaped again from the Love Hotel because they also in this new situation, of course, it was for them a kind of a relief to have this place that they could hide there, but they also kind of felt trapped actually in this situation because it was not very easy working conditions. So they had to always be there in the hotel. Like they couldn't leave the hotel together. One person had always had to be there. So I can imagine they felt again trapped and escaped from this situation again.
We have one final question, and then unfortunately we have to close. Can you say it loudly and I'll repeat it? Yeah. You mentioned that you're not going to put the film online, well, on DOK.fest or soon in Japan at least. What's the future of the film? Are there any more screenings plans in other countries, other cities? How can people watch the film in the future outside of DOK.fest?
Yeah, right now the film is traveling on film festivals like for this summer, and then later in autumn the film will be released in the German cinemas like nationwide. So that will be the first time, and the German audience will be where the film will be available for the German audience in November this year.
Thank you so much, Arata and Andreas, for coming again online and being here with us, and thank you for presenting the film. Thank you also to you, your audience. As you heard, the film is going to screen one more time in cinemas here, and then you can watch a lot more other great documentaries online until May 20th at www.dokfest-münchen.de. I wish you a great evening and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.